The deployment of a massive U.S. naval task force to the Strait of Hormuz in April 2026 under the direct orders of President Trump marks the most aggressive pivot in American foreign policy in the 21st century. By positioning the aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln, a formidable screen of 11 Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, and the amphibious assault power of the USS Tripoli, Washington is doing more than merely enforcing a regional perimeter. It is constructing a kinetic iron wall across the world's most sensitive energy artery, signaling a transition from a policy of containment to one of active economic and military strangulation against the Iranian state. Strategically, this maneuver represents a calculated forced entry into the sovereign maritime sphere of influence typically claimed by Tehran. The blockade is designed to serve a dual purpose: to sever the financial oxygen of the Iranian regime by halting oil exports, and to test the psychological and military breaking point of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. This is not a passive deterrent. It is a direct confrontation orchestrated at the very doorstep of the Iranian mainland, forcing Tehran into a binary choice between total economic collapse or a high-stakes military retaliation. The sheer density of the naval presence, specifically the 11 Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, provides a tactical advantage defined as saturation coverage. In the narrow confines of the strait, which at its narrowest point offers a navigable channel only a few miles wide, these vessels create an impenetrable sensor-shooter grid. Each destroyer acts as a localized node of control, utilizing Aegis combat systems to track every radar signature with microscopic precision. This density ensures that no vessel can slip through the cracks, effectively placing a physical lock on the Persian Gulf. Logically, the scale of this deployment allows the U.S. Navy to maintain a 24-hour, high-intensity interception rotation without suffering from operational fatigue. By rotating these 11 ships through active checkpoints, Washington can ensure that every tanker or cargo ship suspected of Iranian origin is physically intercepted and inspected before it reaches international waters. This systematic approach aims to reduce Iranian oil exports to absolute zero, a feat that previous sanctions regimes attempted but never fully achieved through diplomatic means alone. Above the waves, the USS Abraham Lincoln provides a vital aerial umbrella that is non-negotiable for the survival of the surface fleet. Without total air dominance, the destroyers below would remain dangerously exposed to Iran's sophisticated arsenal of shore-based cruise missiles and suicide drones. The constant patrol of F-35C Lightning II and F/A-18EF Super Hornets creates a de facto no-fly zone, extending American striking power deep into Iranian territory. This presence ensures that any attempt by Iran to launch an anti-ship missile can be met with an instantaneous hard-kill strike on the launch site. The inclusion of the USS Tripoli LHA-7 adds a critical dimension of amphibious and special operations capability to the blockade. As a Lightning carrier equipped with F-35B short takeoff jets and a full complement of U.S. Marines, the Tripoli is the primary platform for visit, board, seize, and seizure operations. If a merchant vessel refuses to comply with blockade orders, the Tripoli can deploy elite boarding teams via helicopter to seize control of the bridge in minutes. This capability removes the ambiguity of soft sanctions and replaces it with the hard reality of maritime seizure. From a strategic perspective, this blockade is an exercise in extreme economic warfare conducted through kinetic military means. Historically, the Strait of Hormuz has been the world's most vulnerable economic choke point, with roughly 20% of the world's oil passing through its waters. Washington's gamble rests on the ability to target only Iranian-linked assets while ensuring the freedom of navigation for neutral parties like Saudi Arabia and the UAE. By isolating the target, Washington hopes to devastate the Iranian economy without triggering a global energy depression that is already being felt in the global markets. However, the risk of a black swan event remains exceptionally high due to Iran's doctrine of asymmetric swarming. Tehran does not intend to fight a conventional ship-to-ship battle against the U.S. Navy. Instead, they rely on hundreds of fast attack craft and semi-submersibles designed to overwhelm Aegis defenses through sheer numbers. Despite the advanced technology of the 11 U.S. destroyers, a coordinated swarm attack in the cluttered, shallow waters of the strait remains a logistical nightmare where a single successful hit could shift the global narrative. Furthermore, the threat of naval mines remains the silent killer of this operation. Tehran has spent decades perfecting the deployment of sophisticated bottom-dwelling mines that are notoriously difficult to detect. The current U.S. effort to clear these mines using the USS Frank E. Peterson and USS Michael Murphy is a race against time. If a U.S. vessel or a neutral tanker strikes a mine, the blockade could instantly escalate into a full-scale shooting war, drawing the entire region into a conflict that no diplomatic channel is currently equipped to stop. The psychological pressure on the IRGC cannot be overstated, as the blockade essentially humiliates the Iranian Naval Command in their own backyard. For decades, Iran has used the threat of closing the strait as its primary geopolitical leverage. By preemptively closing it to Iran, the U.S. has flipped the script. This creates a dangerous use-it-or-lose-it dilemma for Iranian hardliners, who may feel compelled to strike back simply to maintain domestic credibility and regional standing. Diplomatically, the blockade has fractured the international community into two distinct camps. While Western allies largely remain silent or offer tacit support for stability, Eastern powers, most notably China, view this as an illegal disruption of global trade. China, as a primary consumer of Iranian oil, sees the blockade as a direct threat to its energy security. This tension creates a domino effect, where naval maneuvers in the Persian Gulf are closely watched by Beijing, potentially influencing their own maritime strategies in the South China Sea. The economic ramifications are already being felt in the global markets, where oil futures have reacted with extreme volatility. Even a successful blockade that allows neutral oil to flow creates a risk premium that drives up costs for every consumer on Earth. Washington's challenge is to maintain the blockade long enough to force an Iranian capitulation without causing enough global economic pain to lose the support of its own domestic population or its remaining international partners. In the 14th month of this heightened geopolitical era, the blockade serves as the ultimate test of American maritime hegemony. It is an assertion that the U.S. Navy remains the only force capable of dictating the terms of global trade by the sheer application of naval power. However, this hegemony is being tested against a new world order where regional powers are increasingly willing to use asymmetric means to defy conventional superpowers. The iron wall is strong, but it is also brittle. It requires perfect execution every second of every day. As we look towards the potential for escalation, the role of the U.S. carrier strike groups will remain the decisive factor in whether this remains a blockade or becomes a war. The presence of the USS Gerald Ford in the Mediterranean provides a second strike capability that looms over the entire Middle East. This multi-carrier strategy is designed to signal to Iran's proxies, such as Hezbollah, that any attempt to open a second front will be met with overwhelming force from the sea. In conclusion, the Penghetta-Han deployment of the USS Abraham Lincoln, the USS Tripoli, and the 11 destroyers is a high-stakes geopolitical gamble with no easy exit strategy. While the U.S. possesses the technical capacity to seal the strait to Iranian traffic, the long-term viability of this operation depends on factors beyond mere firepower. It depends on the resilience of the global economy, the restraint of regional actors, and the ability of Washington to define what victory looks like in a conflict where the first shot has yet to be fired. Ultimately, this blockade is a declaration that the era of strategic patience is over. Washington has decided that the only way to resolve the Iranian impasse is to physically occupy the space between Iran and its customers. Whether this leads to a new regional order or a catastrophic global conflict remains to be seen. But one thing is certain: the waters of the Strait of Hormuz